Alright, first and foremost, call halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai. That's all praise to the Most High, in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. This is War Dog Pugaya Allah, Banashar. Peace and salutations and grace be upon the elders and the Akim that do this work in truth and in sincerity. And I just wanted to get into an article that I ran across about something that's been going on up here in Canada, and it's titled, this is an article from Amnesty International, and it's titled, Indigenous Women in Canada Continue to be coercively or forcibly sterilized, right? Dealing with the tribe of Gad up here in Canada, okay? And it says, Canadian and international media are reporting on the ongoing practice of coerced and forced sterilization of Indigenous women in Canada. Here's what you need to know. What is forced sterilization and coerced sterilization? Forced sterilization is when a person is sterilized via tubal ligation without their knowledge or informed consent. Sterilization under coercion is when people give their consent for the procedure, but on the basis of incorrect information, i.e., women being told the procedure is reversible, or other coercive tactics such as intimidation, or that conditions are attached to sterilization, such as financial incentives or access to health services. Forced and coerced sterilizations are a form of gender-based violence and torture. Forced or coerced sterilizations of Indigenous women in Canada is the product of systemic discrimination and has been documented from the 1800s to the present. So we're talking about over 200 years of documented incidents of forced and coerced sterilizations, okay? In the 1970s, there were about 1,200 cases of coerced sterilization of Indigenous women, reportedly intended to reduce the number of Indigenous persons in Canada. Although current numbers of forced and coerced sterilization are not known, there is compelling evidence that the practice has continued. Indigenous women continue to be coercively or forcibly sterilized. In July 2017, the Saskatoon Regional Health Authority released a report of an external review commissioned after at least four Indigenous women reported in the media that they had been coercively sterilized in a Saskatoon hospital, mostly between 2008 and 2012. The report documented the experiences of 16 women, most of whom reported being coercively sterilized between 2005 and 2010, and noted that pervasive structural discrimination and racism in the healthcare system in general, despite attempts to remedy these, remains unmistakable. The pattern of systemic bias against Indigenous people in the provision of public services throughout Canada, from the criminal justice system to the healthcare system, is well known and acknowledged by the government. So these devils know what they're doing. Since publication of the extension review in Saskatoon, more Indigenous women in Saskatchewan and at least 3 other provinces, Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario, have come forward with allegations of forced or coerced sterilization. The number of women coming forward to disclose what happened to them increases as public awareness of this practice grows. A class action lawsuit filed in Saskatchewan in October 2017 represents more than 60 Indigenous women in Saskatchewan, most of whom reported being sterilized in the last 10 to 15 years, and as recently as 2014. They have reported that their consent to be sterilized was obtained during or immediately after the birthing process through coercive means, and in some cases, information about other methods of birth control was not provided, and or the permanency of tubal ligation was misrepresented. So what they would do is, when the baby was born, when a woman would give birth, they would be like, basically, we're not going to give you your baby unless you get sterilized, so you can't have any more babies. Or they would tell them to get this procedure done so that you won't have babies. You don't have to use birth control, regular birth control, so called. And when you decide that you want to have a baby, you can have it reversed, which was a lie. Amnesty International has documented this pattern of right violations in other countries. The pattern of coercive techniques used to obtain consent is consistent with practices Amnesty International has documented in Chile, Mexico, and most notably Peru, where thousands of indigenous women were forcibly or coercively sterilized in the 1990s. In 2014, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights held Bolivia accountable for forced sterilization of women and agreed to hear the case of a woman living with HIV in Chile who was forcibly sterilized. All right, so this article is mostly focusing on the tribe of Gad, but we can see that this has been happening to our people. In this article, it mentions Chile, which is the tribe of Naphtali, Mexico, the tribe of Issachar, Peru and Bolivia, which are the tribe of Asher, and we see that this has been happening to our people, right? And a lot of brothers and sisters already know about Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger, and her attack on the so-called Negro in America, right? The Southern Kingdom. And this is something that's been happening to our people for some time, and especially when we're in captivity, right? Let me get a quick scripture. Right. This is Exodus. I'm gonna start at verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew Joseph not. And he said unto his people, Behold, the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And this is what we see play out. These heathens, specifically the so-called white man, the Edomite that the Bible speaks of, he sees us growing in number, and it scares him, because he sees that how much more stronger we are than him, how smarter we are than him. So he employs all these different tactics, population control tactics, like forced or coercive sterilization, abortion clinics, right? And that's just a few. The homosexual agenda is a population control tactic, because if everybody's turning gay, there's not going to be any more childbirth, right? The degenerate lifestyle that this devil promotes to our youth, of being a gangster and being a drug dealer, being a pimp and a whore, or a bad bitch, which is a whore. All these various things are not conducive to flourishing as a people and multiplying as a people. All right? Keep reading. I'm gonna read verse 12 again. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. And all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And that's another way too, because they make life in this captivity so hard that it makes people not want to have as many kids, because the more kids you have, the more mouths you have to feed, etc. All right? And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, and ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Which, there you go, is another population control tactic, which once again has been happening not just in Exodus, just continually throughout our captivities, right? Even in when Christopher Columbus and the conquistadors came, they were killing children left and right, raping women left and right, which is all a population control tactic. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. This is not a new thing. They've been trying to control our population. They've been trying to keep our numbers down. They've been trying to wipe us out. It's not a new thing. All right? But and really all of these things really are it's witchcraft, right? It's witchcraft, it's enchantments, right? And curses that they're trying to put upon our people, right? But the Lord, the Most High, Yahweh, blessed us. And yes, we're under the curses, but we're blessed by the Most High. So a heathen's enchantments and a heathen's curses will not have no effect on us, all right? Because we're blessed by the Most High. This is Numbers 23 and 23. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. And that's right. These heathens can't override the Most High's blessings upon us with their curses. All right, we already have the Lord's curses on us, right? The curses of Deuteronomy, but these heathens can't curse us. All right. So, get into the scripture real quick. This is Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. And that's what we see. We see this so-called white man, this Edomite, cursing our people, using enchantment and witchcraft on our people in an attempt to control our population and ultimately try to wipe us out, right? And we see that it's coming back upon him on his own head, like as it is written in the scriptures that it would. This is Psalm chapter 10, verse 2. It says, the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. And that's what this so-called white man has done. He's persecuted us. We're subjugated to him, and he's doing these various things against our people, stopping us from giving birth. But what we see right now is that it's coming back to bite him in the ass, because now he is having less children and dying faster than he's having children, right? And there's an article I have, right? This is from the New York Times. The article is called "Fewer Births Than Deaths Among Whites in Majority of U.S. States," and it says deaths now outnumber births among white people in more than half the states in the country. Demographers have found, signaling what could be faster than expected transition to a future in which whites are no longer a majority of the American population. The Census Bureau has projected that whites could drop below 50% of the population around 2045, a relatively slow-moving change that has been years in the making, but a new report this week found that the whites are dying faster than they are being born, now in 26 states, more than half of the states, but up from 17 2 years earlier, and demographers say that the shift might come even sooner. So once again, I'm going to read that scripture. Psalms 10 and 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. And he's been persecuting us, man. He's been putting drugs in our community, forcibly and coercively sterilizing our women, putting Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics in our neighborhoods. But all of these things are coming back and biting him in the ass, because why? Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. All of these things are working against them, and they're the ones that are not having children anymore. No? All right, and we give all praise, honor, glory to the Most High for that. All right, and with that.